Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western practical astrologer. Okay, so today we are going to be talking all about your third house, ninth house axis in astrology. We're going to be going through all of the different signs, so definitely stay tuned. And before we do dive in, however, if you do find today's video to be helpful, then please be sure to give it a like, subscribe for more if you haven't already. And if you want to learn more about astrology, then head on over to the Cosmic Check-In podcast. You can also pick up a copy of my astrology cheat sheets if you are interested. And of course, you can also book a reading with me if you would like by going to hannahselsewhere.com. Thank you so much. One more thing I want to mention before we dive into the different signs. There are episodes all about the 12 houses. The 12 houses in astrology over on the Cosmic Check-In podcast. So those are episodes 22 to 33. So if you want an even deeper dive into each of the houses, check out the podcast. See what you think. Thank you. But we are going to explore briefly what this axis is all about. So the third house, ninth house axis. Notice here that the third house is so much about your early schooling years. So if you think about the kind of person you were whenever you were in school, or even what kind of schooling did you receive? What kind of education did you receive growing up? And how did you learn as a child? It's really about your childhood cognition, right? And the development of your intellect. So those beginning stages, the very beginning stages. But then also the third house is about learning in general, and it's really about curiosity and the kinds of subjects that they grab our mind, so to speak. They grab our curiosity. And the third house is much more logical, right? It's really about how we reason, make sense of things, logically speaking. There's a lot of rationale and even just thinking about why we arrive at certain conclusions as well. Plus, the third house is massively about our experiences, then, right? So we also have to think about how we interacted with classmates, other students, teachers within those early schooling environments. Equally, the third house is also about our general interactions, to think about the way that you interacted with your siblings, cousins, close family members, immediate family members, also neighbors. I imagine this as your commute to school, even your commute to work, right? So it's those kinds of daily interactions. And naturally, then the third house is also about short distance travel. So those short journeys, those short trips that we take. It's also about transportation. So driving, for example, do you learn how to drive? What do you like when it comes to learning or driving? Sorry. Or do you have a fear of driving, for instance? These kinds of questions arise when we explore the third house in astrology. But then when we move over to the ninth house, okay, so this opposite house, this is more about our higher education, furthering ourselves, furthering our studies, wanting to learn more about the world, about life. This is about experience as well, more so about maybe heading to university or college. Even with the third house, right, you could have been homeschooled. So we want to think about that too. Yeah, you could have been homeschooled. Or with the ninth house, maybe you decided that you didn't want to go to university, you didn't want to go to college. So these kinds of questions arise within the ninth house. And also it's about adding to our credentials, adding to our qualifications. There is more of this expansiveness to the ninth house, expanding our awareness, expanding our consciousness. We also think more in the abstract, and we also think more about what our morals are, and what our world view is, and how do we interact with life? How do we really interact with the world around us, and what is meaningful to us? It's about our higher meaning to a large extent. And then Following on from this point, yes, experiences with students. So those experiences with other students within our university or college or within a particular training program. Even, for example, if you take on a training program for work reasons, right? So how might you get on with the tutors or the mentors, etc.? Experiences with professors, even religious figures, and like I said, then, yeah, mentors can fall under this house. It's all about our relationships with these individuals. And lastly, what I'm going to say about the ninth house is it's about long distant travel. So, whilst the third house is more of those short journeys, those short trips, imagine you in your car, on the bus, cycling, walking, whatever have you, within your local area, within your local city. The ninth house is more about bigger, longer trips, maybe staying away for a longer period of time, or this can manifest as you literally moving country, moving city, traveling the world. So, all about those experiences that you have, your mode of transport. I mean, do you take the boat? Do you take an airplane? What do you like when it comes to flying? What do you like when it comes to boats? I know for me, I can get seasick pretty badly on boats. So, indeed, this is what we want to think about when we explore the ninth house. Okay, so with that explained, let's now get into your signs. And we are going to focus primarily on your early learning years, right? And then also, so that's with the third house. And then also, we're going to explore this expansion of your consciousness, your willingness to want to grow. And that's not just logical, that is also about considering the abstract, considering what your morals are, so on and so forth. Thank you so much for watching. First up, we have Aries in the third house and Libra in the ninth house. So you could very well have an Aquarius rising with this combination if we were to think about using the whole sign system. All right. With Aries, firstly, in the third house, what we see here is that you tend to be a very eager learner. Whenever there is a new subject or topic you want to learn about, you're going to go straight in and you want to know all there is to know about that topic. And you can be so eager that maybe you even skip a few steps and then you have to go back and revisit some older topics. Or it could be a case of you maybe not learning as quickly as you want to learn, and then you could jump onto something else. Could also be a case of you getting bored pretty easily. And so this is where it's important to find something that can stimulate your mind. And so you can dive into whatever topic or area it is, right? There needs to be some kind of variety with this one or some type of excitement, right? It speaks to your excitement and your passion. And we also see here that with your early learning, I'm thinking about how maybe you were quite quick to debate or quick to argue with other students or to disagree with other students when you needed to, and also challenging teachers, right? So, for example, if you felt like there was a piece of information that didn't make sense or it didn't add up, you could have jumped in and challenged the teacher. And maybe by doing that, the teacher could have been corrected in some way, shape, or form. We also see here you possibly defending or protecting your classmates or protecting your friends, your peers, so people that you did get along with. You would be quite quick to defend them, to stand up for them. And you also tend to stand up for the underdog as well. And you do that using your words, right? Basically, you are not afraid to put other people in their place when they need to be put in their place. So there's all of this happening with your early learning. This is about the development of your mind. But then when we look to the ninth house, so you've got Libra in the ninth house, well, we see that as you age, as you grow, you actually really learn to you come to understand essentially that there are many moving pieces or many moving parts to whatever you're learning about, and that everybody has their own perspective, everybody has their own opinion. So you actually come to learn that it's valuable, it's important to listen to everybody else's opinion. That's not to say that you're going to agree with everybody's opinion, because after all, you've still got Aries in the third, so you're still going to go, hold on, yeah, I'm going to listen to you, I'm going to hear you out, but I still think I still think what I think, and I'm not going to budge unless, of course, you can show me through evidence, you can show me through certain statistics or research that my maybe my conclusion or my reasoning is wrong, or I can change. And this to me makes a lot of sense, because if you do have an Aquarius rising, this speaks a lot to that Aquarian archetype in a way, because Aquarians are known for being like this. Aquarians are known for having their views, having their opinions, but they're also willing to have their opinions changed whenever research and stats are given to them. Still, with Libra in the ninth house, I see this as you really valuing higher education, furthering yourself, even just expanding your consciousness, expanding your mind. There's such a desire to want to do that. And also, you're going to do that in quite a balanced way, in quite a harmonious way, a pleasing way, where maybe the delivery of your message essentially comes across as, hey, you know what, this person is valuing my perspective. This person is trying to see where I'm coming from, trying to relate to me on some kind of level. So there is that. Yeah. And then the last thing I'm going to say is you may be big into art, creativity, music, could be poetry, could be songwriting, whatever, just whatever thing it is to align with beauty and art. Thank you so much, Aries in the third, Libra in the ninth. Now, on to Taurus in the third and Scorpio in the ninth. All right, so with this particular combination, you could very well have a Pisces rising. First up, what we're going to do is think about Taurus in the third house. This to me suggests that when it comes to certain new subjects, new topics, whatever you're learning about, you need to take your time with it. You need to embody the information. You need to feel, like properly feel into the information and to see how it sits with you. And that's a process. That is going to take a while. So that could involve even some resting periods, some time to relax, some time to take in the information, to let it sort of digest, I guess. And also, this could manifest as you preferring to learn physically, practically, really using your hands. You know, I imagine you working with materials and needing to get your hands dirty, so to speak. I'm not sure if that's the correct way to phrase that, but it is. It's about getting stuck in and using your senses. Of course, that could involve touch, but that could even involve sound. So I even imagine this as you needing to listen over and over and over to certain information, again, to let it sink in. And it's a slow process is what I'm trying to get at. And there's also a great deal of patience. Plus, I'm also going to say here that you might possess quite a soothing way of communicating. And there's a sensual sort of way that you can communicate. There's a poetic way you communicate. The words you say can land quite well with others because of how harmonious you sound, because of how well you come across. And you're also going to use your common sense, right? You don't want to make things overly complicated either. And then that really helps you when it comes to communicating and teaching others too. I'll even just say, Also, I imagine you, especially during your younger years in school, you being a very supportive student, really consistent maybe with your work. Of course, that's not always going to be the case, but maybe you wanted to be consistent, right? Um, you wanted to have consistent grades, or you tried your best to put your best foot forward, essentially. Also, maybe you would be quite firm in your views, firm in your opinions, even when communicating with certain students or communicating with teachers. And you could come across as quite grounded. You could have been told, "Oh, you're so grounded. You're so intelligent. You're so gifted." Hey, that's the thing. You could have been told you were really, really gifted within particular areas, perhaps more specifically when it came to art, right? More creative subjects, I'm thinking here. But then when we explore Scorpio and the ninth house, well, you certainly come to learn how to be very profound in your views, to be very profound in your way of sharing, broadcasting, publishing information. You experience these profound transformations to do with your higher mind, to do with your expansion, so to do with the expansion of your consciousness. It's like you're able to dig into the deepest corners of your brain and pull out all of this information, and all of that stuff is tied to your lived experience when we go back to the Taurus stuff, right? Because this is about embodiment, like I was trying to say. So when you do share, it's not coming from this place of, oh, you picked it up from there, or you're regurgitating the information. You've actually sat with it. And so it comes from this really perceptive, insightful place. So when you do share, when you do speak, it really hits like people at their core. It's almost like you can dig in to other people at the same time. You can hit the nail on the head each time, like bam, bam, bam. And people just think, whoa, I mean, I didn't realize that was a part of me, or I didn't see that within me. Whoa, you've shined a light on something that I didn't even realize. And thank you, right? Thank you so much. And then also you can truly heal with your words. Your words, whenever you do master a certain skill, master a certain subject, your words hold so much power. So much power. And that is interesting because if you have a Pisces rising, this is very much the path of a Pisces rising, right? They're known for using their words as a way to help others, as a way to validate other people as well. Thank you so much, Taurus in the third, Scorpio in the ninth. Now on to Gemini in the third and Sagittarius in the ninth. All right, with this particular combination, you could have an Aries rising when we use the whole sign system. Okay, firstly, let's explore Gemini in the third house. What this can indicate is you seek variety. Whatever you're learning about, whatever you want to know more about, you need variety. You need to switch things up. Variety is the spice of life with Gemini, after all. And so you will indeed dabble. You will dabble into all sorts of areas, subjects, topics. And there is that curiosity. There is that desire for intellectual stimulation and keeping yourself on your toes, so to speak. When other people in a conversation, I'm imagining here, when other people in a conversation can keep you on your toes, there's this like, oh, right? And that challenges your brain. I'm even thinking about how, especially if you have an Aries rising here, that makes sense because Aries risings are all about challenging their mind, or just challenges in general, and going after their goals. So the more challenging the subject is, the more curious you're going to be about it, because you think to yourself, I'm up for the challenge. I'm going to figure this out. Though in general, yes, we do see this ability to switch things up, try new things, but then also we also notice that with your early schooling years, maybe you were quite a chatty student. That could be something here where when it comes to the learning process, listening may not be your strong suit. But hey, this is also where we see your ability to inquire, to question. This is where we see you during your early schooling years, maybe having banter, laughter with other students, maybe talking over the teacher, maybe shouting things out in class, maybe getting distracted easily as well. Could be a case of certain subjects that were so boring to you, you didn't see the point. You couldn't connect with that. This is the thing. You need the information to be delivered in a way where you're kept excited, you're kept interested, engaged. This is what we see with Gemini in the third house. Okay, but then when we see Sagittarius in the ninth house, we see you being this major explorer, this major adventurer, perhaps wanting to go on all of these kinds of trips, going abroad, maybe seeking to study abroad, maybe seeking to take on a new educational program abroad. This is where we notice how you're interested in other cultures and ways of life and other people's worldviews and why do people believe in what they believe in, right? You're always on this quest for why. Like, why does this happen? Why are people like this in this particular destination? And then we also notice that you are very big into sharing your big ideas, sharing what you believe, sharing what you think. And a lot of this is about your own perspectives and how they can change, how there is always room for adjustment, always room to adapt. Because when we go back to Gemini and the third, this is what you're like. You are like this mentally, intellectually. But still, with Sagittarius in the ninth, your delivery, it can land in a way where people feel inspired. They feel like they can do anything. You say to people, go after your dreams. You've got this. I believe in you. It's so much about this. And that to me, furthermore, is so interesting. Again, when we think about the Aries rising, we go back to the Aries rising because Aries risings are known for being like this, for encouraging people, inspiring them. So essentially, you inspire people with your words and you also inspire people via your experiences. You could be these people who you try something new, right? You try it once and then loads of people think, that is so cool. I want to try that. I'm so curious about that. Can you teach me about that? And this is the last thing I'm going to say is you could very well go on to become a teacher or a mentor yourself. Thank you so much, Gemini in the third, Sagittarius in the ninth. Now we're going to move on to Cancer in the third and Capricorn in the ninth. Okay, with this particular combination, you could have a Taurus rising using the whole sign system. Firstly, let's explore Cancer in the third house. Right. This is where we notice that when it comes to learning new information, new subjects, new topics, you're very reflective. Okay, you need to reflect. You need to feel into the information or feel into, how does this sit with me? How do I feel about this? What information is coming through? Plus, there could also be some, for example, nostalgia present. So you might, for example, remember, oh, this subject is reminding me of X, Y, and Z from my past. Or you could connect with information when you're younger, and then that sticks with you for a very, very long time. And that's where your memory gets really, really good. Cancer is known for having a very good memory. In the third house, we especially see this. And then there's also that familiarity. There's that comfort piece. So it's the comfort of information, it's the comfort of what you want to learn about. So you may, for example, return to the same thing, the same teachers, the same people that you learn from, the same videos, the same content. And this is because it's about comfort. It's about feeling that the nostalgia. And that to me makes a lot of sense because with Taurus, so if you have Taurus on the rising with this one, there is a consistency, there is a familiarity to Taurus, and Taurus likes what it likes. But also, we see that during your early schooling years, maybe you were called too sensitive or too emotional in class, or maybe you could really feel into the words of other children, other teachers, what they said to you. And those kinds of words or phrases might stay with you. And at the same time, this is also where we see you being a supportive student, a supportive peer to others. And then I'm also thinking that you could have been quite protective of other students. Even I'm thinking that maybe you preferred your social circles, so those closer, the smaller social circles through school and things, you would have preferred those social circles to be smaller and closer, to feel it's that safety, it's that security with Cancer. But then when we head on over to Capricorn in the 9th, this is where we notice that, well, a challenge for you is coming to learn about how to structure higher education. So, you dedicating yourself to a higher learning program or dedicating yourself to maybe some sort of qualification. But equally, we also see the delays, we see the setbacks, we see here, I'm not sure if I want to go to university, I'm not sure if I want to go to college. It doesn't really feel like, it doesn't feel aligned with me. Or it could be a lot of self doubt that could creep in, or it could be that you have very high standards, just really high standards about higher education. And so maybe there are many of you who dedicate your lives, or you dedicated a certain time of your life to get certain qualifications. I imagine this, for example, of you wanting to be the highest of the ranks, right? I imagine this as you wanting to be an authority within a particular higher educational program. And so you might set off on this journey, this path to be that person. And then equally, I'm also thinking that when it comes to how you teach or how you mentor or just share, publish, there is a structure. There is this, there's this part of you that can draw from the foundations of knowledge, and then how those foundations of knowledge, they show up time and time again. It's like you can return to that point anytime when maybe things are becoming too chaotic. So you can return to that point and say, hold on a second, I'm not sure about that. Let me check that. And so you go back to the foundation. And then this within itself is what makes you a great professional, right? A professional mentor, a professional teacher in this regard. Thank you so much, Cancer in the 3rd and Capricorn in the 9th. Now we're going to move on to Leo in the 3rd and Aquarius in the 9th. All right, with this particular combination, you could have a Gemini rising using the whole sign system. Let's begin with Leo in the 3rd house. Alrighty, haha, this is where we see such eagerness, such enthusiasm when it comes to learning, such joy. There is a genuine, joyful feeling that you get from learning. And this is where you truly thrive. You thrive within the realm of educating others, learning. And you're going to come up with really playful, creative ways of doing that. I even imagine you as being a very playful communicator yourself, or I see this as you being interested in subjects and topics where there is some level of creativity present. This is really interesting because if you do have Gemini on the rising, what are Gemini risings known for? They are known for being really good with their words, really good at expressing themselves. I've always said this. I've always said that I admire how much a Gemini rising, or just people with Gemini, significant Gemini placements, they can switch on a camera and go. Just go. I have a Virgo rising, so I need to have structure. I can read too much into things. I can overthink things. I can pick myself apart. The Gemini risings, there is this confidence there. Okay, sure, of course, it's not to say that you don't struggle with confidence from time to time. You can, but there is this confidence in my view. You are so good at expressing yourselves. So this is what we see with Leo on the 3rd. Of course, just in general with Leo in the 3rd, we also notice maybe during school, so your early schooling years, you were quite the comedian. You were the class clown as a possibility, or you were not shy of just speaking to people and putting yourself out there. Naturally, there could be certain planets or parts of the chart that could suggest otherwise for you. But if we're to think about Leo in general in the 3rd, there was a way that you would shine. There was a way that you would have other people gravitate towards you naturally, and you can also be like this even today, right? There is just such an amazing way, a fantastic way that you can communicate, but then also this is about learning, being a playful learner, thriving when it comes to learning and education. Then, when we look to Aquarius in the 9th house, we notice that in actuality, you also come to learn how to experiment with new ideas, to innovate when we think about the abstract, to innovate when we think about higher education, further learning. Many of you might have went, you know what? No, I'm not going to do the whole conventional thing of going to university or college. I really don't want to bother with that. I actually want to learn in this way. We also see this as you preferring to maybe come up with your own strategies, your own methods, your own approaches. So you're all about experimentation, but also I think a big part of this is it comes back to your own authenticity. So it comes back to this Leo in the 3rd where you think, but this is my voice. This is what I think. This is what I enjoy. So the Aquarius part of you, I guess, can align with that. Whilst you do think outside of the box, or whilst you do try different approaches. I imagine this, for example, as you thinking, why on earth would I take that course or pay all that money for that course to have someone tell me about it whenever I can study it for myself, whenever I can do this on my own? And so that might be a path you take. Naturally, that's not always going to be the case. It could also manifest as you taking on different courses and programs from different people. But even when you do that, it's still about what do I think? It's still about what your unique views, what your unique opinions are. Indeed. Thank you so much, Leo in the 3rd house and Aquarius in the 9th house. And now we're going to move on to Virgo in the 3rd house and Pisces in the 9th house. Okay, with this particular combination, then you could very well have a Cancer rising using the whole sign system. First up, let's explore Virgo in the 3rd house. Well, this is where we see your amazing ability to be practical, right? To be practical when it comes to learning and educating yourself. There is a system. There is a particular order in which you do things. And you can also pay attention to details that others often overlook. Even your communication style, so how you communicate, you're going to do so in a way where you want to make sure you're being correct. You want to make sure that you're using the right kinds of words. And also, we notice that whenever you were younger, especially when we think about your early schooling years, early education, maybe there was a big part of you that strived to be perfect. You often exceed what is required of you. So the very basic requirements to maybe pass or to learn, you want to go more, right? You want to strive for excellence. And that's really admirable because that shows your dedication, that shows your care. That shows your care for the information and your delivery of it. And that's interesting because if you do have Cancer on the rising, Cancer risings are known for being like this, very caring, very supportive. And so this is where we see you acting in caring and supportive ways using your words. We even see this overall with Virgo on the third, is you perhaps healing with your words or giving people certain strategies or practical advice, practical solutions to things, being a major problem solver. So, whenever there is a situation that arises, you may jump in and think, okay, let's figure this out. Let's really go into this and let's make sure that we fix this so that it doesn't happen again. This is what I mean. Yeah, big into problem solving. And it's this problem solving that comes through whatever you learn about, whatever whatever you're interested in, you're curious about. And I'm also thinking, like I was saying earlier, with your early schooling years, I mean, maybe in class you really tried to focus or you tried your best to do well. Of course, that's not always going to be the case because it does depend on your chart. And then also I'm thinking the pressure, right? Could have been where there was a lot of pressure placed on you to be excellent. And maybe that was a lot to some extent. But then this is maybe where we see Pisces. Pisces on the ninth. So Pisces on the ninth really does challenge you in many ways because it's almost like Pisces comes along and says, anything that you know right now, I want you to try your best to rethink it, to possibly unlearn it to an extent. I want you to go beyond what is practical or what is just about being correct, being matter of fact. I want you to use your intuition. I want you to follow more of this spiritual path or this spiritual way of learning or furthering yourself. So, for example, this could manifest as you going on all types of travel experiences and maybe your mind being open. I almost think of this as you having what feels like a spiritual awakening or these huge moments of enlightenment or these premonitions that happen, dreams that occur, and you're sort of directed towards certain areas and fields of study. And that can manifest in many different ways, honestly, just depending on your chart. But here's the thing, no matter how much you sort of go into different, maybe metaphysical topics or esoteric topics, or no matter how much you might be open to this whole new way of seeing the world, you can still come back to that of, okay, let me use discernment. Let me actually refine this or improve or think about the actual details of this. So you can then bring what is more abstract with Pisces in the ninth. You can bring what is abstract to the real world, right? You can grind that information in really simple ways, simplified, easy to learn, easy steps. This is what we see when it comes to you. Thank you so much. Virgo in the third, Pisces in the ninth. Now we're going to talk about Libra in the 3rd, and Aries in the 9th. So we're really switching the signs around this time. Okay, with this particular combination, then you could have a Leo rising using the whole sign system. All right, let's then firstly think about Libra in the 3rd. Okay, this is where we notice just how charming you can be with your words. That's the first thing I want to say. How amazing you are at complimenting others, making other people feel included, making other people feel involved. And that within itself is interesting to me because if you've got Leo on the rising, what are Leo risings known for doing? They're great at making other people feel welcomed, being very warm and inviting. And when we think about your learning, so if we were to draw from your early learning, we see here that you prefer to take a balanced approach. Maybe growing up, for instance, when it came to certain subjects that were taught in school or taught by other people, you would always think, I wonder, how does that really manifest, or how does that sit with me, or what do I really think about that? Or you might have played devil's advocate. Maybe you would have argued the other point of view, or you could sense whenever something didn't add up. And so perhaps you would inquire, I wonder, you said it that way, but actually I've learned about it this way. And I'm also thinking that there is a genuine enjoyment that you get from learning. So whatever it is that you do learn about, there needs to be that enjoyment. It needs to feel like it's not too much or it's not too little. So it needs to be challenging enough, but it also can't be too overwhelming, because if it goes to either of those extremes, you might be put off that subject. Then I'm also thinking that what is important to you is relating the information to other people or communicating with other people about that particular topic, right? You want to bounce ideas off others, or have a sounding board, or you want to learn about a new subject or area with a friend or a partner or someone that is close to you. This is what we see with Libra on the 3rd. Now, I'm also thinking that during your early schooling years, so when we think about your peers, classmates, teachers, you could have been quite popular, honestly. Of course, this does depend on other planets and factors, but yeah, you could have been quite popular, quite well liked. Maybe you did strive to get along pretty well with other people within your school, within your class. But then equally, you could have been strong on justice too. Okay, then when we think about Aries in the 9th, well, this is where we see just how passionate you can be when it comes to your morals, when it comes to your philosophies, what you believe in. You can really be independent in actuality. So even though with the Libra in the 3rd, even though you want to get along with other people, whenever you feel like we're really not aligned, you are fine with saying, we're not aligned, we don't agree, I can't be friends with this person anymore, or I can't be a part of this discussion anymore. I imagine this as you being okay with walking away from a certain conversation that doesn't feel all that great. And you can be major independent learners. So whenever you go on to educate yourself further in life, through even travel experiences, could be about university, going to college, could be about some higher educational program, something. It's all about independence. It comes back to independence. It comes back to you being a self-starter, motivating yourself, really thinking about what you want, what your views are, staying true essentially to what your principles, what your morals are, what your beliefs are. And again, it's interesting because with Leo on the rising, it is. This is about self. This is about individuality. And with Aries there again in the ninth, it's about your personal freedom. It's about authenticity. Thank you so much, Libra in the third and Aries in the ninth. And now we're going to move on to Scorpio in the third and Taurus in the ninth. Okay, with this particular combination, you could very well have a Virgo rising using the whole sign system. Just to mention that this is the combination that I have in my chart. So with Scorpio in the third, this is where you take information very seriously. This is where you can be very literal when it comes to education and learning. But this is also where we see your own fixations and your tendency to maybe obsess or ruminate. Very fascinating to think about, because if you do have a Virgo rising, this explains so much about the Virgo archetype. Virgo can be like this. Virgo can read into things a lot, can overthink, and can ruminate, go over and over and over the same kind of information or thoughts. Still, what I will say with Scorpio in the third, just in general, it is your ability to dissect. You burrow into information. You get right into the core. So whatever subject it is, you want to dig and dig and dig and dig until you cannot dig anymore. Until every single area is looked at. And that is a part even of your power. It's something that you may struggle with, especially during your younger years. But you do come to really learn that these parts of you are amazing, and you should be really proud of yourself in many ways, right? For your dedication, your devotion to certain subjects. This is about self-mastery, right? Because Scorpio is a sign of self-mastery. Plus, what I'm also going to say here is during your early schooling years, so if we think about your relationships with your peers, other classmates, teachers, there could have been this intensity. There could have been some challenges to do with those relationships. So, for instance, this could have manifested as you getting into explosive arguments with people, or there could have been disagreements, or maybe you would be quite quick to use your words to say it like it was, or to stand up for another person. And again, I can't help but draw from Virgo in the rising, because that could have shocked people. Because with Virgo in the rising, it can feel like you're reserved, right? You don't want to bother anybody, so to speak. But when push comes to shove, you will defend. You will use your words and make your opinions very much known in this way. But in general, yeah, with Scorpio in the third, you truly transform when it comes to your mind, when it comes to learning. Now, as for Taurus in the ninth, Taurus in the ninth says that when it comes to higher education, when it comes to furthering your studies, you can be quite fixed and you prefer to be consistent. You sort of want to make sure that there is a consistency to information, and if there are any inconsistencies, you will dig in. You kind of draw back from we go back to Scorpio in the third, and we look at your ability to dissect, to pick things apart, to sort of open things up and to look at how they actually operate and function. And that can be good, actually, because that can support you with your ability to maybe continue educating yourself further, and then to also publish or share or broadcast in practical ways. It's like you can take really complex knowledge, complex information, and deliver it in ways that just make sense to people. It's practical, it's grounded in reality, right? So people can actually see, oh, this is how this shows up in my life. Ah, that makes sense. So yeah, this is really interesting for you if you've got this particular access. And I'm also thinking that it's through certain life's experience, it's through the likes of travel, broadening your horizons, that you even come to value yourself a lot more. You come to appreciate what your pleasures are, what your desires are. And this is certainly a journey, and it's a journey that you might document with the world. It's a journey that over time you see as being glad, really glad that you dedicated yourself. And I'm also thinking that you could very well earn money, right? So you could earn money from your teachings, or when it comes to certain philosophies and new ways of seeing the world, you take your time. A lot of this, I think, with Taurus in the ninth, it is important to slow it down, take your time, and to really see how certain beliefs, how certain worldviews sit with you, how you embody them. Thank you, Scorpio in the third and Taurus in the ninth. Now we're going to explore Sagittarius in the third and Gemini in the ninth. Okay, with this one, you could very well have a Libra rising using the whole sign system. Firstly, let's think about Sagittarius in the third. Well, what an interesting combination, because this can imply that even during your early education years, early schooling years, you were always thinking bigger. You were always thinking wider. You might have thought to yourself, how can I get out of here? How can I be free? How can I broaden my horizons? I want to travel. I want to expand. I want to grow, very much about these things. Also, very much, very much connected to your beliefs, to your morals, your principles. So I even imagine you as being the type of classmate in school who would have looked at other students and thought, why are you doing that? Why are you behaving in that way? Why are you acting in that way? That's not just, that's not fair, that's not true, that's not reasonable. That's a bit messy. Oh, right. That is interesting because with the whole sign system, if Libra is on the rising, what are Libra risings like? They are the types of people who will look at whatever is happening and think, is this acceptable? But then equally, this is about standing up for what is the right thing to do. And then I'm also thinking that you could have jumped into particular debates or arguments with other students, and you would not have you basically don't shy away from putting other people in their place whenever it gets to that point, right? So if there is something that you feel is quite unjust or it doesn't add up, you might be big into standing up and saying your piece. Now, as for actually learning, right, there is this thirst for knowledge you possess. For example, this could even have manifested as you being taught in a different country whenever you were quite young. So, for example, you relocating and then receiving education in a completely different culture, completely different country. Also, this could have manifested as it was your parents or people within your local environment who were quite religious, or they had their own belief system, and then they heavily taught you about their beliefs. And so then you go on to maybe follow that same path or to potentially challenge that path. But then I guess within it, what I'm trying to get at here is this leads into Gemini in the ninth. This is a great segue to Gemini in the ninth, because what this indicates actually is that later on in your life, you start to question, you start to think, is this true? Is this what I actually believe in? Am I maybe just regurgitating what I was taught whenever I was younger? Were my parents correct in their views? Were their opinions valid? Was what my teachers told me true? And so you sort of set out on this whole journey to do with unlearning or to do with adapting to change and trying out different approaches. And then that within itself shows the kind of elasticity of your brain and your ability to adjust. And then that within itself shows your intellect, your ability to think in new ways and then to communicate with people in ways where they feel like they're being related to. You get where they're coming from. You're a delight to be around, especially if you've got Libra on the rising. Libra risings are known for being really delightful communicators, very social, very friendly. Naturally, you've still got Sagittarius in the third. So, what your opinions are still valid. What your beliefs are still valid. And then I'm thinking with Gemini in the ninth, this is where we see you getting into all sorts of uh, could be certain social circles where you want to learn from all these people and you want to connect and network and see what this person is doing over here and this person is doing over here. And that within itself adds to your credentials, your portfolio. It's your ability to even dabble into all sorts of bigger concepts or bigger ideas. And it's these things that help you formulate your own thoughts, your own opinions. And then with Sagittarius in the third, the delivery is boom. It's so on point because it speaks to your vast knowledge. It speaks to how much research you have done. Thank you so much, Sagittarius in the third and Gemini in the ninth. Now on to Capricorn in the third and Cancer in the ninth. All right, with this particular combination, you could very well have a Scorpio rising. All right, using the whole sign system, by the way. Okay, let's think about Capricorn in the third, first and foremost. So, if we were to think about your early learning, your early schooling years, maybe this could have manifested as you striving to exceed other people's expectations and standards. You showing up and wanting to be dedicated, wanting to commit yourself or to be disciplined. Naturally, this is going to also depend on other factors. I'll even imagine that generation who have Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn in the third house. And so things are not so straightforward, like I'm saying. But there's still this part of Capricorn that wants to be an authority. And so maybe you could have been praised. You could have been praised by your teachers, by your parents, or you could have felt their expectations, right, to perform really, really well at school. And I'm also thinking that there could have been some delays at the same time. So, delays to do with your early education. Maybe, for example, it's that it was more difficult for you to grasp certain subjects or certain topics or areas. And it may have just required some extra effort. So maybe support or a mentor or someone stepping in to help you out. Or it could have manifested as you being overqualified, right? Overqualified or exceptionally good. And then you even feeling that pressure to always be exceptionally good, to always be excellent in your delivery. So there are a few ways that this can manifest. But what I do find quite interesting about this combination is if you do have Scorpio on the rising, Scorpio risings are known for being those people that others listen to. Oh, yeah. When a Scorpio rising speaks, you listen. And maybe a part of that is tied to that Capricorn influence in the third because of their authority. Because when they speak, they come across as being the authority. or they can come across as quite serious. Or it's that you know that they have so much knowledge, so much wisdom to share. And so listen to them. Oh, yeah. Scorpio risings, whenever they have something of importance to add to a conversation, it is it's perhaps recommended to listen, because what they have to share comes from a much deeper place, maybe a very experienced place. Still, with Capricorn in the third house, just in general, when we think about this, there is a level of professionalism that you seek when it comes to education. And it's that foundation, it's that structure that follows you. It becomes a part of your process and can really help you even later on in life. And you may even find that it is more so later on in life that you come to discover what kinds of subjects do excite you. Because I'm even thinking that maybe during your younger years, it could have felt like everybody else was telling you what to learn. You need to learn this because you need to go on to become this person or get this job, whatever. This is what's expected of you within society. And so maybe you felt a lot of that pressure. Could have even been specifically from a father figure within your life. So this authority within your life who maybe you looked up to a great deal, but that person also could have even played a role in your life, even if they were absent. So even if you didn't grow up with a father figure in your life. So there is that to share. So what I'm trying to get at is later on in life, this is about connecting with subjects, topics, areas that really speak to you. And I guess this is a good segue into Cancer in the ninth, because maybe it's more so that when you can be reflective, when you can be sensitive to your own needs, when you can nurture your higher mind, so to speak, this is where you're going to thrive. I'm even thinking that it's your ability to reflect on higher educational topics. It's your ability to sit with that information and to see how it feels to you. You know, it's your ability to do that that can help you perform better and can help you deliver even more um profound insights. Profound insights. Plus, I'm thinking that you might go on to live in a different country, right? So you could move, you could live abroad or spend some time studying abroad, maybe going to university or college, whatever, abroad. Or it's more so that it's through family experience, right? It's the experiences that you have with family, with certain family members, that you really do grow into yourself, right? You come into your own. You come to really learn that your way of delivering and presenting and publishing information, it's to be nurtured, it's to be cared for. And that within itself can assist you in some way, shape, or form, even when it comes to that mindset that you might have that can be overly harsh or critical. But then equally, it is your foundation of knowledge, right? We go back to Capricorn, it's your foundation of knowledge that can support you even when you do go on to learn about something that's maybe a bit more complex, that is a bit more abstract. Thank you so much. Capricorn in the third, Cancer in the ninth. Now on to Aquarius in the third and Leo in the ninth. Okay, so with this particular combination, you could very well have a Sagittarius rising. Well, let's explore firstly this Aquarius in the third house. This is where we see your ability to march to the beat of your own drum when it comes to education and learning. You perhaps being a bit of a rebel, right? A bit of a rebel during your early schooling years. Maybe some of you completely rebelled against authority. Maybe some of you thought to yourself, do you know what? No, I'm not going to university. I'm not going to college. What's the point? What is the point of that? Others of you, though, could have really dedicated yourself to school and thought to yourself, yes, I am going to make something of myself. I am going to follow this particular program. I'm going to follow this particular study and how it's done. But I'm also going to do it in my own unique way. I'm going to be inventive, innovative. I'm going to change something about this area, this topic. And sure, whilst I think that especially this way of thinking can show up when it comes to your studies in general, I'm also thinking that during your early schooling years, you might have felt a little bit awkward or a little bit unsure of yourself. Maybe there was a part of you that hesitated, or there was a part of you that didn't want to be seen as weird. You didn't want to be seen as overly unusual or odd, even though you come to actually appreciate these parts of yourself more so later on in life, right? Because what I imagine here is you having a question, or you maybe wanting to challenge a teacher or another student, and you might just not have, so you probably didn't really know how exactly to word that or how to formulate that in your mind. It's just you could sense it, or there was something quite intuitive about it. But you can actually be a massive visionary, when you do trust yourself, when you do believe in what your gifts are and what your truth is. This is where you're truly going to thrive in actuality. And that to me is fascinating, because with Sagittarius on the rising, I mean, Sagittarius risings are known for being visionaries. They're known for seeing into the future, using great foresight. So the Aquarius part of you is coming in, and it's saying, yeah, think 10 steps ahead, think about the future, and give it time. Like whatever you're learning about now, it's gonna catch on later on in life, this type of stuff. But if we were to move away from that and just think about Aquarius in the third house in general, we see your innovative brain. We see that you could have felt really heavily misunderstood, especially when you were younger. But then this is a good segue into Leo in the ninth house, because what this suggests is that you come to this point of, where is my joy? What do I love? What do I actually want to learn about? What do I want to educate the world about? Or what do I want to share? What do I want to publish with the world? What are my views? What are my opinions? But then there's also that confidence piece, right? To be confident in your views, to be confident in your opinions. And your delivery can really come across in this way of, yeah, I know who I am. I know who I am. And then I'm also thinking that this is where your higher education comes in. So for example, you stopping for a moment and thinking, is this what I want with my life? It's that ability to not follow the status quo. It's your ability to stop and go, everyone's going this way, but what about this way? And that naturally could show up as you still going to university or college, but it could also show up as you following a different path. I guess that comes back to, we come back to Aquarius in the third, and how you're still going to question the status quo anyway. So yeah, it could manifest as you literally going to get a degree, going to university, but it can also manifest as you trying a different path. And there's still that qualification that you get at the end. It comes down to your personal freedom. It comes down to joy and what really aligns with you authentically. Thank you so much, Aquarius in the third, Leo in the ninth. Now we're going to explore, lastly, Pisces in the third and Virgo in the ninth. Okay, so with this one, you could very well have a Capricorn rising using the whole sign system. So, firstly, let's think about Pisces in the third house to begin with. Pisces in the third. Well, this suggests to me that you are dreamers. You can be a major dreamer, especially when we consider your early schooling years, the kind of student you were growing up. maybe daydreaming in class, maybe thinking of all the ways to get out of that subject that you didn't care about. Maybe drawing. I imagine you doing little sketches in your notebook, or distracting yourself, escaping in some way, shape, or form. And a part of that was maybe because you thought to yourself, I'm destined for greatness. I am destined for way more than what this is. And maybe also a part of that was because it was so much about what you were curious about. And maybe certain subjects that you weren't curious about, they did not, they just didn't do it for you. And so you were too busy visualizing other subjects. I imagine you as having a really profound imagination, and maybe it was your imagination that could have kept you occupied at school. And you may also be like this today. So even when it comes to something that you really want to learn about, there is this visual piece, this imaginative piece. You sort of, you need to connect with the information on a more visual level, almost like you need to learn through vision or sound or music. I even imagine this as music being so important in your life, and it's always provided this support to you. And maybe music is even a way for you to learn. But then equally, it could be other ways, such as through dance, right? So dance or singing or photography, film. Though what I do find interesting here is a moment ago, I was talking about you being destined for so much more, destined for greatness. If you have Capricorn on the rising, Capricorn risings are like this, right? So Capricorn risings are about, okay, I want to be successful. I want to accomplish something in this life. I want to leave a legacy behind. So this Pisces part of you could have acted as the dreamer, as the visionary within you. But in general, with Pisces on the third house here, this is where we see your ability to draw from your intuition, even when it comes to learning. I'm even thinking that what's important for you is to follow a stream of consciousness. It's following a stream of consciousness, or feeling at times like there's a natural gift you possess, right? Or there's a natural way that you flow with information. And when you tap into that, that's where you truly thrive. Now, having said that, Virgo is in the ninth, and Virgo has something to offer you in actuality, because Virgo says, okay, I get that you have all these visions and dreams and these fantasies, and you can see them in your mind, right? You can see them in here, right? Third eye kind of stuff, even. But when you deliver that information, how are you going to get other people to see it? How are you going to get other people to believe in the dream? How are you going to get other people to recognize your gift? And the way that you do that is by being practical, is by showcasing your gifts, showcasing your imagination in the most simplified, easy to understand ways. And this is where you can truly thrive. This is where you can be great teachers, great mentors, and you're also going to go above what the standards are. So anything that is typically expected of you, and this is very Capricorn rising, I just want to say, but anything that is expected of you, you're going to go above and beyond. And so because of that, that's where you do get that recognition. A lot of this is about your diligence, your dedication, self-mastery. And what is Capricorn? Capricorn is about self-mastery. Though in general, yes, with Virgo on the ninth, it's about perfecting things, refining your craft, refining your skills. And the refinement of your skills is tied to higher education, further training, really wanting to learn more, and also tied to publishing or broadcasting and presenting information to the world. Last thing I'm going to say, though, because I'm thinking about the Capricorn rising stuff again, is we learn with Capricorn on the rising that you can't really take shortcuts. So if you do act in a way where you're taking shortcuts, or you're trying to find the easy way out. That can maybe even speak to the Pisces in the third house, the kind of avoidance stuff. If you do that, you may find that things do not really align with you so well, or karma basically happens where you are reminded that it is important to showcase integrity and responsibility. And then that's the beauty of Pisces still on the third, because you are then brought back into alignment, so to speak. You are then reminded of your spiritual qualities too. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. This has been the video all about the third house and ninth house rulers. So really thinking here about your early learning, your higher mind, expanding your consciousness, things like that. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found this video to be helpful. If you would like to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. And if you did find the video to be helpful, you can always buy me a coffee. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. Give the video a like if you liked it today. Stay tuned for more, everybody. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye.